Professor Corrado Malanga is an Italian chemist and researcher, formerly a professor of organic chemistry at the University of Pisa. Over the course of his academic career, he has published numerous scientific works in the field of chemistry and developed an interdisciplinary interest that led him to explore theoretical physics, consciousness, space-time geometry, and unconventional models of reality. In recent years, his work has focused on analyzing complex structures through alternative physical models, applying concepts of waves, resonance, information, and matter, energy interaction, even to the study of ancient civilizations. In 2025, together with scientist Filippo Biondi and Egyptologist Armando May, Malanga made public a discovery that attracted international attention: the advanced use of SAR, synthetic aperture radar technology, to analyze the Giza Plateau, with results suggesting the existence of a vast underground network beneath the Pyramid of Kefren. This discovery, officially presented during the Bologna conference at the end of March 2025, is the central topic of this video. In this conference, Corrado Malanga explicitly talks about phonons, not photons. Phonons are quanta of matter vibration, not particles of light. Many incorrect translations have confused these two concepts, completely altering the meaning of his discussion. This is the first episode of the series dedicated to Corrado Malanga, and all subsequent episodes will be released on the playlist, Fringe Friday. So, let's try to summarize the situation a bit, to say some things that haven't been mentioned yet, and to better explain, as much as possible, how our system works. This first slide essentially represents an hourglass in which time flows. And why do we start with flowing time? Because time is measured by the movement of things, the hands of a clock, the sand falling in an hourglass. Everything that moves is time passing. So we could ask ourselves a question. Time flows for the sand, but doesn't it flow for the hourglass itself, which remains still? Here we need to realize something fundamental, because ultimately we are talking about time, and in this context, the time of the pyramids. There is literature available for those who want to delve deeper into what time really means. We have an idea of time as something chronological that passes, but things are much more complicated. We need to understand why, in a sense, time doesn't exist. It only exists for the sand flowing downward. When all the sand has fallen, just rotate the hourglass and everything returns to its original state. This has a very precise meaning, because in modern quantum physics, time is circular. You always return to the starting point. For those interested in physics, there are two fundamental elements, space and time, which correspond to the electric field and the magnetic field. These two fields are linked to two geometric operations, divergence and rotation. Divergence, coincidentally, in Maxwell's equations describes how the electric field is formed and changes. Rotation, on the other hand, concerns the magnetic field. Again, a variation in the electric field produces a magnetic field, and a variation in the magnetic field produces an electric field. In the same way, a variation of space produces time, and a variation of time produces space. You see that, in the end, the world is smaller than it seems. Why introduce this discussion? Because we are about to talk about the pyramid. The pyramid is something essentially always the same as itself. If we observe it, it seems still. And if it is still, for it, technically, time does not flow. So, when we look at a pyramid, we must ask ourselves, is this structure really still? Because if it were completely still, absolutely immobile, then time would not flow for it. And if time doesn't flow, that structure is, so to speak, eternal. But of course, it's not that simple. The pyramid is made of matter. Matter vibrates. And the vibration of matter is described by something in physics called a phonon. A phonon is not light. It is a mechanical vibration of matter, an oscillation of atoms within a lattice. So the question becomes, what kind of vibrations does a pyramid have? A pyramid is not just any shape. It is an extremely particular shape from a geometric point of view. Now, if I take a geometric structure and subject it to stresses, for example, waves coming from underground, seismic waves, natural vibrations, that structure responds in a way that depends on its geometry. The shape selects the vibrations. This is a fundamental point. Because of its shape, the pyramid can channel, reflect, and concentrate certain vibrational frequencies and not others. And these frequencies are not electromagnetic. They are mechanical. Now, when we use SAR, synthetic aperture radar, we are not simply looking underground like with a photograph. SAR works on a much subtler principle related to interference and phase variations of the return signal. But what is important to understand is that SAR is also sensitive to micro variations of the Earth's surface, variations that can be caused by what is happening below. If there is a cavity underneath, if there is a structure, if there is something vibrating differently from the rest of the ground, SAR sees it. Not because it sees the cavity itself, but because it sees the effect that cavity has on the vibrations of the surface. And here we return to phonons. Because an underground cavity modifies how phonons propagate in the rock. It's a bit like a resonance box. If there is a void underneath, the sound changes. If it's full, the sound is different. We didn't invent anything new. We simply used an existing technology, but interpreted the data differently. And this is the key point. Until now, SAR has mainly been used to monitor landslides, earthquakes, or ground subsidence. But almost no one has systematically used it to search for organized structures underground, based on the assumption that geometry modifies phonon propagation. When we began to see certain signals under the Giza Plateau, we realized they were not random. There were symmetries. There were repetitions. There were structures that could not be explained by natural geological phenomena, and in particular under the pyramid of Kefren. What emerges from the SAR data is not a single isolated cavity, as one would expect from a natural phenomenon, but something much more complex. We are talking about a structured network. Now, when I say network, I don't mean a random void. I mean a series of underground volumes connected to each other with coherent geometries. And this is a point that must be emphasized because nature, when it creates cavities, does so irregularly. Natural caves are not symmetrical. They are not modular. They do not repeat according to a precise logic. Here, instead, we see structures that show alignments, repetitions, and constant dimensional ratios. This is not normal geological behavior. Under Kefren, in particular, a structure appears to develop hundreds of meters deep. Note, I'm talking about depths that have nothing to do with traditional archaeological hypotheses. And here the problem arises. Because if you see something like this, you have two possibilities. Either you are completely misinterpreting the data, or you are looking at something that does not fit current models. We, of course, considered the possibility of error. We checked the data. We compared it with other areas of the plateau. We verified that it was not an artifact of the SAR signal, and the results remained. The anomalies are stable. They are coherent. And most importantly, they are located exactly under the pyramids, not randomly scattered. This is another fundamental element. At this point, the work of Filippo Biondi, who has a more strictly engineering approach to radar data analysis, and that of Armando May, who deeply understands the Egyptological and historical context, also comes into play. Because it's not enough to see a structure. You have to ask, does it make sense in the cultural context? Does it make sense technologically? And here the discussion becomes delicate. Because if these structures are real, and the data indicate that they are, then we must accept the idea that under the Giza Plateau there is something that predates or does not coincide with the official chronology. I'm not saying who made them. I'm not saying when. I'm saying that they exist. And this, from a scientific point of view, is already enough to pose a huge problem. Science should not defend a model. It should follow the data. And the data tell us that under Kefren there is not just solid rock. There is a structure. A structure that interacts with the vibrations of the pyramid, which modifies phonon propagation, and thus leaves a measurable signature even on the surface. This is why SAR works in this context. Not because it sees below, but because it listens, in a sense, to how the Earth vibrates. And when the Earth vibrates unnaturally, something is there underneath. So, you see clearly that when we observe a structure like the pyramid, we cannot just say, it's there, it's still, nothing happens. In reality, a lot happens. Because the pyramid is immersed in an environment that constantly vibrates. The Earth vibrates. The underground vibrates. Everything vibrates. And these vibrations are not random. They are linked to natural phenomena, tides, the Earth's rotation, tectonic stresses, micro-earthquakes that occur continuously even when we don't notice them. Now, if I have a simple geometric structure, this structure responds to these stresses in a simple way. But if I have a complex geometric structure, the response becomes complex. The pyramid is a highly symmetrical structure, and symmetry, in physics, is always a key element. A symmetrical structure tends to select certain frequencies and suppress others. This means the pyramid can function as a sort of vibrational filter. Now, when there is something under the pyramid that is not solid rock, this system changes. Because an underground cavity or structure modifies the way phonons propagate. Phonons, when they encounter a void, reflect. When they encounter a discontinuity, they change phase. And this phase change is exactly what SAR is capable of measuring. SAR measures extremely small phase differences, on the order of fractions of a millimeter. So, if even a minimal variation occurs under the ground, this variation can be detected. And this is why SAR is a very powerful tool, if you know what to look for. Now, at this point, someone might say, okay, but then any underground cavity should produce a similar signal. And here we need to be careful. Because a natural cavity is not organized. It has no regular geometry. It has no repetition. Natural caves have chaotic, fractal, irregular shapes. From a vibrational point of view, they produce diffuse noise. What we observe in the SAR data under Giza is not noise. They are coherent signals. Repeated. With a recognizable structure. This means we are not observing a random phenomenon. In other words, the Earth is not vibrating randomly. The Earth is vibrating differently in specific points. And these points coincide with the presence of the pyramids. This is an extremely important element because it allows us to exclude many simple explanations. If it were just geology, we would see similar structures far from the pyramids. But this does not happen. The anomalies are localized. And when an anomaly is localized, it means there is a localized cause. At this point, the concept of a coupled system comes into play. The pyramid and what is beneath it are not two separate things. They are a single physical system. The pyramid vibrates. The underground vibrates. And the two influence each other. This coupling modifies the overall vibrational response, and it is this overall response that SAR detects. We are not seeing a room. We are not seeing a corridor. We are seeing a physical signature. A signature that indicates the presence of something organized beneath the surface. And this is the most that a serious scientist can say. No more. But not less either. So, at this point we need to understand a fundamental concept. When we analyze the pyramid, phonons, and underground structures, we are not speaking of abstract theories or speculation. We are working with measurable phenomena, real and supported by concrete data. Each pyramid, because of its geometric shape, acts as a vibrational selector. Not all frequencies propagate in the same way. Some are amplified, others are dampened. When there is a cavity or an underground structure that differs from solid rock, the interaction becomes more complex. The vibration of the pyramid and the response of the underground structure combine, influencing each other, creating a unique signature. This is exactly what SAR, synthetic aperture radar, is able to detect. It does not see a room, like in a drawing, nor scan a corridor. It measures the effect of vibrations. From this effect, we can deduce that there is something organized below the surface, a network of connected volumes, symmetrical and coherent, which cannot be explained by natural geological phenomena. This raises an enormous question. What existed beneath the pyramids when they were constructed? I am not talking about who built them, nor when. I am saying there is something structured, intentionally designed, interacting with the pyramids themselves. This challenges many certainties of official history. Until now, we studied the stones, the surface, but rarely the underground as an active part of the system. The pyramid is not an isolated object. It is a node in a larger coupled system, connecting above and below, visible matter and vibration. Finally, we must also consider the concept of time in all this. As we said, time is linked to movement and vibration. A structure like the pyramid, interacting with constant underground vibrations, experiences time differently from us. Time for the pyramid does not flow as it does for humans or the sand in an hourglass. Ancient constructions are not simply monuments. They are instruments that interact with matter and time itself. This is why our SAR approach is innovative. We are not merely searching for rooms or corridors. We are searching for interaction signals, coupled system traces, vibrational signatures. When we detect these signatures under the pyramids, we see logic, geometry, deliberate design, something that has resisted time and still communicates with matter today. The data is clear. Under the pyramids of Giza, particularly under the pyramid of Kefren, there is not just solid rock. There is an organized, coherent structure that modifies the vibrations of the pyramid, leaving a detectable signature on the surface. This is the key to understanding not only the pyramid itself, but the relationship between geometry, matter, and time. In the upcoming episodes of Fringe Friday, we will gradually release the entire conference held on July 27, 2025, in Spoleto, presenting all of Corrado Malanga's insights. The full conference in Italian is also available on the Spoleolistica YouTube channel.